Let's talk about perpendicular lines. I don't know why I'm saying perpendicular. Why is that so funny? Tee-hee-hee. LOL. Do you guys know what perpendicular lines are? Nothing. You know nothing. You're so quiet today. That's fine. Let me give you an example of perpendicular lines. They what? They create angle. They create right angles. Okay. So perpendicular lines. These are intersecting lines that form right angles. And what's a right angle? It's an angle. What is your problem, Gabby? A right angle is an angle whose measure is what? It's 90 degrees. Do y'all agree? So this guy has 4 90-degree angles. Okay. It's really pretty easy to identify these guys are perpendicular. And in most diagrams, if it's not just blatantly obvious that things are perpendicular, we'll put this little square here in the corner to say, hey, these are perpendicular, guys. Okay? And I don't need the attitude. And we've seen things like this before. Like if I were to draw, and hopefully Lisa won't call me out for having a horrible diagram this time. If I were to draw this, hopefully this is a rectangle, right? Close enough, good enough for government work. And if it's not given to you that this is a rectangle, you may see something like this. You know, oh, there's a right angle, and they may have it in all 4 of these corners. That way we know that what we have here is a rectangle. Okay. Remember in rectangles you had opposite sides being the same length, and you formed right angles in all the corners. Of course, we can also talk about parallel. You guys know what parallel lines are, don't you? Oh, did you just... Oh, that wasn't like a gang symbol. You were showing me with your fingers. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
That would... So, if you were to use words and not flip me off, how would you describe parallel lines? They run side by side, so they have to be within... They can't be too far apart, right? Or they won't be parallel? Because you said side by side. Here's a fancy definition for you. You're going to love this. These are coplanar lines. Coplanar lines that never intersect. Now remember, a plane is just a 2-dimensional surface. Like this piece of paper could be considered a plane as long as it was, rigid. It doesn't curve or anything. If I were to draw 2 lines on here, that would be coplanar. Like up here, these perpendicular lines are coplanar because they lie on the same plane. But do they intersect? Yes. So they're not parallel. So here's an easy way for me to draw parallel lines. And understand that parallel lines does not mean side by side. Okay. These guys would be parallel. So if I call this line L and this line M, there are ways that we could denote that these guys are parallel. We could draw little arrows on here like this, and that indicates that they are parallel. Okay. If you had several different sets of parallel lines, if they're running in different directions, then you might see something like this. So let's call this lines J and K. If we see these guys are parallel, then we would use maybe 2 little sets of arrows on there. That way it's clear that these guys are parallel to each other and any other lines that have the 2 little marks on it. And these guys are parallel to each other and any other line that has that single mark on it. Okay. Now, the way we would write this, though, would be the following. If we want to say that line L and M are parallel, we would see something like this. L, we'd see two vertical bars like this, and then M. So line L is parallel to line M. That's how we would say parallel. Just like here, J and K are parallel. We use these two vertical bars right here. Now there's another notation that we'd use if we're talking about perpendicular lines like we have above. So above, when we have perpendicular lines, if this is line M and this is line N, to say that these guys are perpendicular without necessarily showing the symbol here, you might see this written in the text. The M is perpendicular to N. We use this little symbol right here to mean perpendicular to. So this would mean perpendicular to. Whereas what we have here at the bottom, use this a little further down here like that. This right here would mean parallel to. Please understand that the word parallel only has one R and three L's, not two R's and two L's. Spelling. That's it. It's a good concept to know, to practice, right? Now, with parallel lines, there's a lot of really, really super neat things that we can talk about with these. But we'll have to come back to that in just a moment.